Alright guys, it is Tuesday, July 5th, 2022 at 9:28 p.m. Alright, let's start by taking a look at a daily versus.net verse of the day. It says, "No one who denies the Son has the Father. Whoever acknowledges the Son has the Father also." 1 John 2:23. Alright, let's start with taking a look at Space River News on Twitter. It says, "Thank you God for another beautiful day." But also from Dave, it says Europe power prices hit a new high in the wake of Russian gas supply cuts. So electricity power prices in Germany have been rising due to the Russian gas supply cuts. Look at the prices rising here. That is quite spooky. Please pray for our brothers and sisters in Europe because everybody is going through difficult times. Alright guys, so here in South Dakota, we see a video here of green skies in South Dakota. There was storms happening this evening and a lot of pictures showing green skies. Let's take a look here. It says, "My buddy Duke just sent this pic from the storm rolling through downtown Sioux Falls." That's something. Green skies there. Let's see if we see any more green skies. Oh, look, there's more hail from South Dakota. Look how large that hail is. Let's take a closer look at this. That is pretty large. Large hail in South Dakota today. Alright, let's keep scrolling. Look at this. Look how green the sky is. It says the color of Sioux Falls sky right now is unreal. Look how green that is. That is very, very green. Let's zoom in so you guys can take a look and have a bigger image of how green the sky is. Look at this. Very green today as the storms through South Dakota were passing through. There was hail. There was a derecho that was passing through the storm system. Alright, still hear a little bit of fireworks happening, even though it is the 5th. I just heard a little bit of fireworks in the distance. This is a time lapse of the derecho in South Dakota. Here's a line of storms of the derecho passing in Sioux Falls. You see just a line of storms in South Dakota. And again, green skies. Green. A lot of green skies. Alright guys, that's it for the news from Sioux Falls in South Dakota. Let's take a look at this article. It says oil from the U.S. reserves sent overseas as gasoline prices stay high. So the U.S. reserves has a certain amount of gasoline that we have stocked away for emergencies. Apparently, they're sending all that gasoline overseas. It says more than 5 million barrels of oil that were part of the U.S. U.S. emergency reserves released to lower domestic fuel prices were exported to Europe and Asia last month, according to data and sources, even as the U.S. gasoline and diesel prices hit record highs. So that oil is just being exported out of here. That isn't going to help us if we have an emergency, if we have to, for some reason, execute and have our military propped up to do stuff. There won't be a lot of oil or gas left, gasoline left over for the military to do anything. So that is pretty spooky that is happening. Alright, next, let's take a look. Here we have Cern. A new physics season is starting. Cern's particle smashing machine, LHC, has fired up again, sparking fresh hope it can find unusual results. So Cern has been started up again, and it's pretty much just running. It was running, I believe, last night, the evening of the 4th, the 5th in that country, in Switzerland. Anyways, there is vicious thunderstorms that hit Switzerland, heavy floods, strong winds, hail, and thousands of lightnings recorded. as well as the mass shooting that happened on the 4th of July in Highland Park, Illinois. Terrifying videos, at least 6 dead and more than 24 people injured from that horrible, horrible incident that happened on the 4th of July. Alright, next. Canada's health minister says you will never be fully vaxxed. That is a new right way to think about vaccinations, is what Zero Hedge is saying. Next, the US-Mexico border is the world's deadliest land crossing, the UN study finds. And the next article says power companies face transformer shortages ahead of hurricanes and wildfires. Let's take a look at this article. It says power companies face transformer shortages ahead of hurricanes and wildfires. Power grid operators across the U.S. recently warned about the increasing risk of electricity shortages and the potential need to implement rolling blackouts for grid stability this summer, according to Reuters report. Utilities are sounding the alarm about the transformer shortage. Utility operators are stocking up on transformers, distribution lines, and poles. Though many have had one similar use, sourcing has become challenging, and that is all happening as hurricane season has begun on the East Coast and heat waves and fire scorch the West. We're doing a lot more splicing, putting cables together instead of laying new cable because we're trying to maintain our new cable for inventory when we need it. Nick Atkins, chief executive of American Electric Power and Utility Company, delivered electricity to more than 5 million customers in 11 states in the eastern half of the U.S. It says you don't want to deplete your inventory because you don't know when that storm is coming. But you know it's coming, Izzo said. The utility serves millions of residential businesses, customers across New Jersey. Utilities across the country are getting dangerously low on overhead distribution transformers, supplies lacking, and the shortfall could take 2 years to correct. If we have successful days of 100-degree heat, those pole-top transformers that start popping like Rice Krispies, and we would not have the supply stacked to replace them, Izzo said. If wild weather hits the coast, it wreaks havoc on power grids in the coming months. Some utilities might find replacing transformers impossible because of limited supplies. So, guys, heads up in your preps. Those people who prepare for possible emergencies, the power grid going down is one of those possible emergencies. Please start preparing, getting candles, getting flashlights, getting things you need for hurricane season, and in case the power grid goes down. Get a generator, get electric power through power solar panels, get anything you need together that you need for the possibility of power grid going down. Because they're saying it right here. If wild weather from coast to coast wreaks havoc on power grids in the coming months, some utilities might find replacing transformers impossible because of limited supplies. So that is spooky right there, guys. There's not a lot of supplies because we need some parts just to from other countries just to have these parts here. So if we don't have parts coming from other countries and importing from other countries, we're basically stuck in the mud because we can't resupply the things that we need. That includes cars, computer chips, and other technologies that we have to import from other countries because we don't have the supplies. So, guys, please prepare for the upcoming possible power grid down situation. It is serious. Alright, next. Russia demands Israel cease its air aggression against Syria. Israel carried out yet another strike on the Syrian coast this weekend, which reportedly wounded 2 civilians. Russia has been getting more forceful in its denunciations of these strikes, which have occurred on an almost weekly basis across various parts of Syria, especially around Damascus, over the past few years. Russia on Monday condemned the latest and other recent attacks as categorically unacceptable and demanded they cease immediately. During the early years of the Israeli attacks, which almost always claimed to be targeting Iranian assets, Russia remained relatively quiet. So here you see Israeli missile strikes near Damascus on October 30th, 2021. But Russia is pretty much upset that Israel is doing those strikes. It says Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Sarakova said, "We strongly condemn such irresponsible actions and violate the sovereignty of Syria and the basic norms of international law, and we demand their unconditional cessation." Also, the Syrian government denounced what is called Israel's air aggression. Despite literally hundreds of such strikes, Israeli media reports acknowledge Saturday's attacks are rare. The relatively rare daytime strike on Saturday targeted an area near the Syrian town of Al-Hamiyad, south of Tartus, which is home of Russia's main naval base in the region. 2 civilians were injured and a serious damage was caused to civilian infrastructure, Moscow said. Syrian state sources said the poultry farms were targeted in the attack. However, both Israel and Syrian opposition sources claimed that a weapons shipment en route to Hezbollah in Lebanon was hit. Quoting a military source, Syria's state-run Sana news agency said the missiles were launched Saturday by Israeli fighter jets over the Mediterranean Sea west of the northern Lebanese city of Tripoli and the Syrian town of Al-Hamiyad south of Tartus. The Times of Israel describes, while most alleged Israel attacks in Syria typically take place under the cover of darkness, Saturday's alleged strike was occurred at around 6:30 a.m. during daylight hours. To call these solely Israeli strikes in Syria is misleading. There is Israeli-U.S. strikes in Syria. According to WSJ, Israel secretly coordinates with the U.S. on many of the airstrikes it carries out on Syria. So I'll leave you guys a link to this article so you guys can check out what's happening between Syria and Russia and Israel. Pretty dangerous stuff right there. Alright, next we have severe weather. We have Tropical Storm Chaba heading toward China, landfall forecast on July 2nd. That happened a couple days ago. Tropical Storm Chaba heading towards China Sea. Also, unseasonably heavy rain to impact Northern Territory and Queensland, Australia. So a lot of rain headed for Australia. Let's take a look at Earth changes, see what they have. Massive landslide hit Tupal railway station, leave at least 45 people missing in India. And then the volcanic weekend activity happening report. I'll leave you guys a link to the Watcher so you guys can check out their articles. But on the 29th, extreme heat wave engulfed Iran, main city's record hottest June day since records began. So a lot of heat going around, a lot of heat happening also in the United States, not just outside of the country. Alright, let's take a look here. It says Highland Park parade shooting suspect charged with 7 counts of murder. So that July 4th attack that happened, the shooter got 7 counts of murder charged against him. Alright. Also, UK climate protesters glued themselves to a 500-year-old painting. Let's take a look at this article. Climate protesters in England glued themselves to a copy of The Last Supper. They wrote "No New Oil" underneath the painting, and they glued their hands to The Last Supper. That is just craziness right there. It says, with a bit of glue and spray paint, protesters took action at the gallery in London's Royal Academy of Arts to demand greater government action on climate change. A group of at least 5 activists from the group Just Stop Oil spray painted "No New Oil" underneath the painting of copy of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper and glued their hands to the artwork's frame. The painting depicts a scene from the Bible when Jesus holds his Last Supper with the 12 apostles and tells them, depicts a scene with the Bible when Jesus holds the Last Supper with the 12 apostles and tells them that one of them will betray him. The 500-year-old copy of Leonardo da Vinci masterpiece has been attributed to the Da Vinci student Giacomo and painter Giovanni Antonio Balatrofio may have also worked on it. So this is pretty crazy that we have protesters just basically vandalizing beneath a painting and then gluing themselves to a painting. That is just insane. Alright, guys, I'll leave you guys the links to all these articles and stories. Hit like and subscribe for more news, and God bless you guys. See you guys next time.